Well, the Lightning sit on top of the Atlantic right now, but what team behind him is the biggest threat to unseat them and win the division? We'll talk about it in today's Locked on Lightning.
You're Locked on Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked on Lightning your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Tampa Bay Lightning podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. As always, we want to begin with a shout out to our everydayers. Those of you who tune into every single show, every single day, we love you guys and appreciate the support you give us week in and week out. I'm Nick Morgan, and I am joined by the Stanley Tucci to my Snoop Dogg, Greg Stephen. Greg, welcome in. Good to have you here on this Thursday.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah. Olympics, they're underway, man.
They are. Some good hockey, some good other events. If you ask me, it is BS that Evan Bates and Madison Chalk did not get their second gold medal of the games. I call shenanigans. Throwing all the way back to those 2012 or 2002 games in Salt Lake City. I'm calling shenanigans, Greg.
Yeah, I know. You were sending me some messages too about you had some feelings about the broadcasting and such too.
Oh, I have some thoughts on the Olympic broadcast of men's hockey. You're going to talk about that on today's show. A lot to talk about on today's show. First games for the men's tournament, and a couple of Lightning players making some big impacts. One of them maybe a little unexpectedly. Plus, USA, Canada, both in action today, and a couple other games. We will talk about the Lightning player who you're most looking forward to seeing today and who you think is going to be the biggest X factor. A lot to get to on today's show, but let's kick it off by talking about the gauntlet that is the Atlantic Division. Tampa Bay Lightning, by virtue of being the NHL's hottest team right now, sits in first place in the division. 78 points. Pretty good lead, all things considered, especially when you consider they have a couple games in hand of everybody behind them. But, as we mentioned, Greg, the Atlantic is a madhouse right now. 9 points. 9. That's all that separates first place from fifth place in the division. Behind the Bolts, you have Montreal, Detroit, and then Buffalo and Boston are the two wildcard teams. Teams all playing amazing hockey right now. So, Greg, my question to you is, which team do you believe is the greatest threat to the Lightning in the division right now?
All right, I'm going to give you an answer that's going to be maybe surprising, but also just not surprising at all. And my answer is the Florida Panthers.
I was going to ask about that.
Yep. And look, I don't care where they are in the standings right now. There's enough games for them to get in the playoffs. I don't think anyone should sleep on the Panthers. I think they're coming. Tkachuk's getting a lot of hockey in right now in the Olympics to warm himself back up from his injury. I mean, he's played a little bit, right? He returned a shortly before this break, but I think he's getting some more games underway here. And when he's back in full force and this team starts gelling because they have 30 games to come back, they're a team to fear. I think everyone should fear them.
I do want to talk about Florida a little bit because Here's the thing. Florida's got a big road ahead of them right now. Looking at them, they're 8 points back of a playoff spot, which doesn't sound like a lot. But the bigger obstacle for them is there are 5 teams between them in the last wild card spot. So you not only have to make up the points, you have to leapfrog some of the other teams and hope that one of them gets on a little bit of a slow streak. So that's the tricky part for the Panthers. But they are the Florida Panthers.
Exactly.
And I will say that. And they do have talent. And I know, Sasha Barkov is also going to be in the mix. I know you mentioned Matthew Tkachuk kind of getting his skates back under him a little bit. I don't know. It's weird because the Panthers that have been playing this year, I think there's a couple of things that maybe haven't worked out the way they wanted to. I know Sam Reinhart is kind of not as hot as he has been the past couple of years. The defense and goaltending haven't been there this season. Bobrovsky's stats are way down compared to where they have been the past couple of years. I don't know, but they still scare me, Greg, and they will scare me if they go on a heater and wind up in that last wild card spot, and voila, we have Lightning Panthers again.
Yeah, you know what? That's the thing I'm hoping to avoid the most, right? Even if they get in, I think you just want to avoid them in round one. We've seen what happens in round one with these two teams, and I think I don't feel great about it. And look, I think the Lightning are much better this season than they have been the last few. And I think the Panthers maybe look a little more human this year, right? I mean, and I think a big part of that is Tkachuk and Barkov injuries, right? I think we can't forget about that. But when they come back in full force, man, I think they still can beat pretty much anybody, and I don't like it. And I think the thing that looks the best for everyone in the league right now is how human Bobrovsky has looked. Just like you had said a second ago, I think he's looked extremely underwhelming, which is positive, right, for everyone else.
Yeah, it's the X factor, and that's the X factor for the past couple of years. I mean, the Florida depth has been there too. I don't know, like they have been showing signs of fatigue, which is we experienced that.
Yeah,
we had some players come back and just not look as sharp, I would say, the year after the Colorado Avalanche loss. So, I mean, it's starting to feel like it's caught up with them a little bit. But at the same time, for the playoffs, you only need a run. You need one run. And, they have the players that if Bobrovsky gets hot at the right time and everybody starts cooking, at least for a couple of months, that's all you need. And, they are at the point where I think every game is going to start being a playoff atmosphere for them, because a lot of these games coming up are going to start being must wins, especially as we get into March. But they can do it. We know they're good at those playoff atmospheres because we've seen what's happened the past 3 seasons. So don't count out the Florida Panthers. I think we're both saying that.
Yeah, no, for sure. But now my question is, who's the next team to fear outside of the obvious Florida Panthers?
If it's not the Florida Panthers, and I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask about that. It's interesting because every team behind Lightning right now, there's some big question marks. I agree. I think there's reasons to be like, hell yeah. And I think there's reasons to be like, I'm going to pitch, and not just because I'm wearing a hat that kind of looks like their logo. I'm going to pitch the Detroit Red Wings.
Okay.
And here's why. Out of all the teams that we just mentioned off the top that are behind the Lightning right now, the team with the best defense and goaltending statistically, besides the Lightning, are the Red Wings. You talk about the defense and Seider in terms of defensive metrics alone. He's been getting some Norris buzz from people. Simone Edmondson, another young star, is having a really good year. And in goal, John Gibson has been absolutely on fire the past month of the season. So he's put up some insane stats after kind of a slow start. And the thing I've learned in all my years of watching hockey, Greg, defense and goaltending are the two things that can completely upend a playoff series. You can throw 60 shots on goal on the other net. If that other goalie is stopping 59 of those 60 shots, you have a chance to completely change the game. And to me, the Red Wings match that vibe. And the thing is, it's not just defense and goaltending. Up front, you talk about Patrick Kane, the ageless wonder, not only having a good year, but a guy that's won 3 Stanley Cups and knows how to win when he gets into the postseason. You have Dylan Larkin, who can play really good both ways, and you have some good up-and-coming stars like Lucas Raymond, who can score. So I feel like the threat is there for the Red Wings to kind of be that team that all of a sudden, you have John Gibson in net, you have Mo Seider, that kind of turns the game into a slog and makes it really hard for a depth scoring team like the Tampa Bay Lightning to be able to crack the game open.
Yes, completely agree with you. I think goaltending is a huge part of how you win playoff series. And like you said, they're getting it right now. And it's actually funny because I think before this season really began, you and I kind of had a big question mark on their goaltending because it's been one of the struggles for their team. But this season, they're really getting it. And like you said, they still have a captain in Larkin who is just a monster. And the ageless wonder, Patty Kane, don't let him get in the playoffs, man.
Yeah, it feels like we had some question marks about every team behind them right now. We haven't even mentioned the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have been battling, health issues all season. If they get healthy, what do they look like the second half of the year? It's interesting, Greg. Even the teams that are outside the top 5 right now, we're scared of them. And that should tell you a lot about how deep the Atlantic is. It's going to be a crazy second half of the year.
It really is. Any team can make it in right now. And it's just going to be so fun to watch, if anything, just this last stretch to see all these teams struggle to get a spot, man. It's crazy that the Leafs and the Panthers are in last. It's just so remarkable. It's going to be such a fun last 30 games.
Yeah, who would have thought? Who would have thought coming into this year that they would be 2 of the 3 bottom teams, and the other one of the bottom, Ottawa Senators, playoff team last year. So
yeah,
anything can happen in the second half of the year. Hey, speaking of anything can happen, first Olympic men's hockey game and first upset of the tournament, and we almost had one right after that, plus a couple of Bolts players in those games making a big impact for their teams. We'll talk about that when we come back on Locked on Lightning. Today's episode is brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there's got to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades that you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O. It's the smarter way to run your business communications, because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating all in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. I love how simple Quo makes everything. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing ever gets missed. Everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal, and it works right from your phone or computer. And you can even keep your existing numbers, so no need to go out and get more smartphones or another laptop. You can do it all from what you have right now. Plus, Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps, so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. So make this a year where no opportunity and no customer slip away. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnhl. Again, that is quo.com/lockedonnhl. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. We're back on Locked on Lightning. Nick Morgan here alongside Greg Steven. And Greg, let's talk about some Olympic hockey. And can I rant for a minute?
Of course.
On NBC's coverage of these games.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Just them kind of cutting away from the game entirely, yeah.
Okay. So let's walk through what happened. The first Olympic men's hockey game with NHL players in 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Really the only thing going on at that time, other than, I think, doubles luge. We saw the first 6 minutes of the game. They go to what looked like a TV timeout. And when they come back, doubles luge is on TV. What the heck? Okay, so whatever. Not weird decision. Maybe USA, Canada not in it, whatever. They switch over to the Olympic zone, which is the channel that they're putting out that is kind of like the red zone for the Olympics. They put in the picture-in-picture, they put Finland and Slovakia, but they don't put the audio of the game on. Instead, they put the audio of the same luge that's on the other channel. And then when that's over, they put on audio of figure skating practice.
Yeah.
Not to be Allen Iverson here, but not a game, not a game, not the gold medal round, but practice. They turn on audio from practice instead of a men's hockey game going on right now. Am I wrong for thinking that's stupid?
Not at all. I'm so with you, man. Like, obviously we're biased because we're huge hockey fans, but come on. I mean, like you said, it's the first time the NHL's back in the Olympics. Like, what are we doing here?
Like,
I don't know, man. It's ridiculous.
It's insane to me, and you wonder why hockey's not growing. There's so many people invested in watching these games. People were hyped to see men's hockey back in, and that's like kind of the fun thing to me about the Olympics is you kind of get to see those random matchups, and like turn on your TV at today there's games at 6 a.m. and get to see like a random team play. That's part of the fun. Yeah. Come on, like put it somewhere. NBC owns like 80 channels. You can't put it on C-SPAN or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I had to go online and find my own broadcast.
Yeah, if you don't have Peacock, you're kind of screwed. Which
pretty much
is whatever. It's stuff like that really makes you glad NBC lost those Olympic rights. Although it's they don't. ESPN's not doing much better at the moment. That's a different conversation for another day. Let's talk about the games itself, because that first game was pretty good, and it was a pretty big upset. And Greg, I would just like to say, we're talking, of course, about Slovakia's 4-1 win over Finland. Would just like to say, who was the one that said Juraj Slavkovsky, having played in Olympics before and being the golden boy in that tournament, was going to be an X factor in these games? Who was the one that called that?
You, and I knew you were going to say that. I was going to come on here and just give you so many props for that because, oh my God, he just came out and dominated, man. 3 points is just remarkable. He carried that team.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how he's doing this here. And as somebody pointed out, he's kind of had to do a lot of that same stuff in Montreal with line mates who are not necessarily good on the defensive end. Like, he's apart from Nick Suzuki in Montreal. Right. So it's kind of impressive what he's been able to do. Yeah, rough upset for Finland. We talked about them having kind of a big question mark going into the season. I mean, they look like, they threw more shots on goal, but Slovakia looked like, the sharper team, the faster team. Let's talk, Greg, about Erik Černák here. Was kind of the third defenseman for Slovakia in this game. He had the third most ice time among defensemen, fewer than both Martin Nemec and Martin Fejärvi. Were you surprised that he did not have maybe a little bit of a more prominent number one shutdown role for the Slovaks?
Yeah, I was. And, I think I came on here yesterday saying I thought he was going to be D1, and it just didn't turn out that way. I'm not sure why, but, I mean, it is what it is, I guess. Nemec is so good, so I think I understand that one. But I kind of expected him to be at least first pairing, but I was wrong.
Yeah, a little bit of a surprise, but it was still a interesting game. Nonetheless, also I have to throw in, did you see the little bit of a Battle of Florida throwback with Černák mixing it up with Niko Mikkola?
Yes, I did see that. I kind of didn't think that bad blood was going to carry into this, and then I saw that starting to go off, and I was like, oh, okay, we're bringing that here.
There's definitely some bad blood there. Did you see the Matthew Tkachuk comment on Sam Bennett replacing Anthony Cirelli?
No, I did not.
Where he was like, I personally think it's an upgrade.
Oh, really? He said that?
Yeah, he said that. It did not land among Lightning fans, let's just say.
Of course not.
So I would imagine this rivalry is probably not going anywhere anytime soon. So
no, but luckily fighting is pretty much non-existent in the Olympics, but who's really to say?
Yeah, who knows? Let's get to the other game because this was maybe the surprise of the day for me, was how close this game was. Sweden beats Italy, the host nation, 5-2. that score does not do it justice because Italy was in this game from the very start. Go up 1-0. There was tied 2-2 at one point. And Damian Clara, if you don't know who he is, boy, you do now. Italy's goaltender having himself a great game against the Swedes. He was a second-round pick of the Anaheim Ducks a few years ago. I believe he is a Washington Capitals prospect now, if I'm not mistaken. No, I think he's still with Anaheim. I don't know why I was thinking Washington was coming into mind, but yeah, little surprised at this one being so close, Greg.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I saw Italy up 1-0 for as long as they were, I was kind of like, oh, whoa, what are we doing here? And then, yeah, like you said, it was twos for a while too. So I think other teams are going to start looking at this like, oh, we're not going to just go ahead and walk through Italy. It's just not how it's going to go. Yeah. And I liked they interviewed some of those guys on that Italian squad, and they really talked about how they're really looking at this as a chance to prove that they can play hockey. Yeah. And I loved their interviews, man. They were just talking about how they're doing this for their country. They know everyone's sleeping on them, and they're here to show that they're not going to be a team that you can just count as a W on your schedule. And I think they did that in this game. You know, like you said, the 5-2 is really not an indicator of how this game went. And yeah, they really impressed me. They did. I didn't expect them to score any goals, to be real with you.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you there. And it was like, I think like the shot advantage was like 60-20 Sweden. So
yeah, it was
definitely was the dominant team, but
yeah, it was something like they were maybe I think a shot shy of setting a record for the most shots in a period or something like that. It's some stat like that.
Yeah, but big Stadium Series vibes, Bruins Series vibes for
for real.
For them there. But Sweden wound up winning the game thanks in large part to our buddy Victor Hedman, who scored a goal.
He did.
And as we talked about yesterday, Greg, he was kind of the guy on the blue line for Sweden. Had 21 minutes of ice time. He looked like he was definitely sort of back in that number one defensive role. Like, you know, we're used to seeing him in. I think that's going to be big dividends for him down the road. But maybe a bigger shout out to me, Greg, is the role that Pontus Holmberg played in this one. Remember, we were talking about him maybe just kind of being like the extra forward, the guy that's just kind of there for maybe one or two shifts. Wound up getting 14 minutes of ice time, including some key defensive minutes in situations late. More than Mika Zibanejad in terms of ice time, more than Gabe Landeskog. Even Philip Forsberg, 90-point scorer, had one shift in this game because Sweden prioritized Holmberg. Are you surprised to see Pontus have that big of a role for Sweden in this game?
Absolutely. 20 shifts for Holmberg, man. Yeah. That's like not at all what either of us were talking about yesterday. Not expected. Oh. And I thought he played really well too. I mean, he had one penalty, if I'm not mistaken, but outside of that, like, you know, he was their guy. They played him a ton, and I like that, man. Let's get the Lightning out there.
Yeah, and I think it really does kind of reflect the quality of player and what Holmberg brings to the table, because he is very defensive minded. He's very responsible. Also not afraid to use his, you know, physicality and size to get in there and sort of make plays along the boards. And I think that is going to help Sweden, you know, if they run into some teams in the postseason like Canada, like the USA, that are a little bit more physical, or, you know, maybe even a team like Switzerland coming up that's got a little bit of a bigger defense, or a more staunch defense. I think that's going to help him be that X factor. You know, it's not necessarily always about goals or assists. It's, you know, what do you bring to the game in terms of your style? And I love the style that Holmberg brings. So I'm excited to see more of him, Greg.
Me too. I think he's going to have a large impact on this tournament, actually, for Sweden.
Yeah. So more to get to on the Olympics, including 4 games today, including the first games for both USA and Canada. A lot more Bolts in action across the board. In fact, every game features at least one Bolts player. So who will be the Tampa Bay player that you're most closely watching today? Who do you think will be the biggest X factor? We'll tackle that when we come back on Locked on Lightning. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. As you might have imagined from this show, the Winter Games are officially in full swing. And if you're anything like us, you're locking in for those events you only get to see on the biggest stage once every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. You can bet on any of the Winter Olympic sports that you love the most. How about the drama of curling? Start slow and somehow get intense right at the end. How about the speed skating races designed by inches? Even the niche events like biathlon. It's must watch when you're fully locked into the competition. And of course, how about hockey? Some big games coming on today that feel different right from the opening faceoff because they are part of the Winter Games. FanDuel lets you keep the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them with FanDuel. FanDuel, make sure you go to FanDuel.com to get started or download the FanDuel app straight to your phone. FanDuel, play your game. Back here on Locked on Lightning, Nick Morgan here alongside Greg Steven. And Greg, a lot of Bolts in action today. We have kicking off action today, JJ Moser in Switzerland taking on France. We'll say that game probably is over by now because we're recording this the day before. But cool to see JJ on the ice. We also have Canada kicking off action against Czechia. Brandon Hagel playing for Canada. John Cooper, of course, is the guy behind the bench. And then afternoon action, Team USA plays their first game. Jake Guentzel, of course, will be on the top line, we think, for the Americans, taking on Latvia and our boys Zemgus Girgensons. And then also at the same time, Denmark, led by Oliver Bjorkstrand, will take on Germany with Syracuse Crunch star Wojciech Tkowiak on the team as well for the Germans. Greg, big slate today. We're going to talk about Lightning players in just a second, but we'll say, which one of these games do you think is most intriguing to you today?
Good question. I think this is going to sound interesting. I think it's Germany-Denmark. I think that's going to be the most interesting game. I think both these teams have, a sprinkle of NHLers in there. I think maybe Germany will go in with the upper hand because they've got Draisaitl obviously over there. But I'm excited to see Bjorkstrand lead that squad.
Yeah.
In Denmark.
I'm with you because I think a lot of people are always talking about like the dark horse of the tournament. And for me, I kind of think like Germany, Denmark, both of those teams have potential. I know I called out Germany when we were talking about this the other day as a team that I think is very under the radar right now. Denmark has a lot of prior Olympians. So I'm excited to kind of see that one and how it comes into fruition here. All right, Greg, let's talk about Lightning players. Obviously, we mentioned the Bolts playing today. Is there a Bolts player for today's action that you think is going to have the biggest X factor on his game today?
Well, first of all, right now that Switzerland-France game is underway, as you stated, and by the time we upload this video, it will be over. But JJ Moser has a goal right now in that game, so let's go for JJ. Yeah, JJ notched one. He got the second goal for Switzerland. But outside of JJ, I think I'm most looking forward to watching Guentzel, man. I think I want to see Guentzel lead the Americans to gold. And like you said, I expect him to be a top-line guy and have a big impact for the American squad.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that he is going to be sort of the guy that is kind of the X factor and has the potential to sort of be the big breakout star for Team USA this year. Greg, the one that I'm throwing at, and we kind of referenced it a little bit earlier, is Denmark and Oliver Bjorkstrand. He is a player that does not have Olympic experience, but I'm pretty sure, right? Yeah. He didn't play in 2014, did he?
I don't think so, no.
So this is his first game with Denmark on the Olympic stage. But as we mentioned, Denmark does have a lot of players by virtue of having a lot of European players who played the last couple of Olympic games. And Denmark did pretty well in those games. Like, they certainly put up fights in their games.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be interesting to see Oliver Bjorkstrand, somebody with NHL experience, somebody who has been playing on teams' top lines in the past, fits into Denmark. And can he kind of be a difference maker for some of these games and help Denmark maybe pull an upset or two? And I think it starts today against Germany. He's certainly somebody that we know has the potential to score. So I'm seeing him on the world stage. I'm interested to see how he does for Denmark.
Me too. And that's a big reason I picked that game as well, because I think Bjorkstrand is going to be one of the leaders over there. And it's going to be exciting to see him take on I would guess, a significant role for this team where, for the Lightning, maybe he's a bit overshadowed by a lot of the superstars for the Bolts. And I'm more excited to see if it can build some confidence for him coming back into the regular season for the NHL, because I think it'll be good for him overall too.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, somebody that if he does wind up playing kind of a bigger role, that's going to be huge maybe to see if maybe he can translate some of that mojo into the second half of the year. Same way we were kind of talking about if Hedman can be that number one guy for Sweden, how much momentum is that going to give him to maybe get back into form with Lightning without maybe not necessarily having to be like the guy that plays number 1 minutes.
Right. And he got 21 minutes in this last game and a goal. So let's go, man. I'm loving it.
Our predictions are working up. I will say, Greg, I'm just going to throw this out there, and we talked about it a little bit, but not a player to watch. But I'm very interested to see how John Cooper manages this Canadian team. As we mentioned, obviously, look, the best players in the world, a lot of them are on Team Canada this year. They're absolutely stacked, absolutely fearsome roster. But maybe not everybody jumping in on them as the runaway favorites in this tournament, like everybody has been for, the past couple Olympic Games. It is interesting to see John Cooper and how he kind of manages the goaltender situation. He's been very coy about who he's going to play as a starter, at least for this first game. He's been very coy about line combinations. He switched some guys in and out past couple games. He's been very coy about maybe using, the 18 players as opposed to the, expanded 20. I'm interested to see how he manages this Canadian team, because best coach in the NHL right now with this roster has the potential to be very, very fun. And I'm interested to see how Canada looks with their depth.
Yeah, I agree with you. We've seen Coop manage some crazy stuff this season for the Lightning. And then you hand him one of the best rosters you could possibly give him in the entire world. It's going to be fun to see what he does with it. Like you said, I think with all the talent on that team, there are just so many things he could do. And I'm excited to see what he does with guys like Celebrini.
Yeah.
He's been a monster this season, right? And he's definitely one of the best NHLers, but he also has no Olympic experience. And you have guys like Crosby and McDavid and those players. So how much do you play a guy like Celebrini initially, So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how he manages the players as well. I think there's just so many things you could do and so many things maybe people think you should do. And I want to see what the best coach in the NHL does.
Yeah, we know from the Lightning this year, he has the ability to mix or match and really put guys together that kind of complement each other at play. It might not look like an all-star game lineup. You might have some different guys like, how is Tom Wilson on this first line with all these players? John Cooper's so good at that, and I'm excited to see what this Canadian team looks like. Obviously, on tomorrow's show, we will have big takeaways from all of these games coming up, plus a lot more Tampa Bay Lightning topics to talk about. We're not going anywhere, folks. We have a lot of hockey to discuss during this Olympic break. In the meantime, make sure you guys are following us on social media, Locked On Lightning on Instagram, TikTok, pretty much wherever you scroll. Also, wherever you're tuning in, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening in on that favorite podcasting platform of yours, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Helps us out with numbers and lets you guys always know when we have new content available for you. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Lightning. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Back with a new episode tomorrow. We will see you then.